So, Michael, the movie is about the greatest entertainer ever, Michael Jackson. So this biopic opens up with a when like the beginning of the movie that had me cracking up. It almost took me out. I just thought that was just so funny. I went to go see this movie on April 27th. That was my birthday, and I went with, it was 8 of us all together. So with 7 of my friends. So we had a good time with this movie, except for one of my friends. He did not like the movie. But let's just get into this. So this movie, as I said, it's a biopic. It's about Michael Jackson. And the movie is 2 hours and 7 minutes. And I must tell you, this movie made me want to sing. It made me want to dance. I was jamming in my chair, and I had to tell myself, you're at the movies, so you're gonna keep your composure. You're not gonna bust out a moonwalk and a kick and a spin. But with this movie, what I would say, at times, like you see, I don't have to explain the premise to you because it's about Michael Jackson. Everyone knows about Michael Jackson, his upbringing, how he started with the Jackson 5, and then also how, his dad was behind the Jackson 5 and behind, pushing his sons. And I think, with Michael Jackson's father, in this movie, what they depict his dad is, and what we heard, just from watching interviews, Joe was, he was abusive at times, but he was also trying to push his kids in the right direction. If they messed up on, on a move, or if they didn't sing in the right tone or whatever, or pitch, he would be upset. So he wanted his sons to be superstars, especially Michael Jackson. So that's what you see in this movie. You see the upbringing with the Jackson 5, and then you see how Michael Jackson, how he became a global superstar, how, when he released that album Off the Wall and then Thriller, I mean, the rest is history. So I enjoyed this movie because I thought, like, the performances, and also Michael Jackson's nephew, Jafar Jackson, he plays Michael Jackson. So he did a great job just with the, with the moves, the Michael Jackson's mannerisms, and just also the makeup. There was times in the movie where, because, Michael Jackson had a few nose jobs, but there were times where, Michael Jackson, they would talk about like how he got his first nose job, and he would get the nose job, and then you'll see 2 scenes later, his nose would be small, and then the next scene, his nose looked like a little bigger. So sometimes the makeup was a little off to me. Also, this movie is directed by Antoine Fuqua, and the screenwriter is John Logan. So talking about the performances, like I said, Jafar Jackson did a great job. And the kid who plays Michael Jackson when he was a kid, he did an incredible job. I mean, and the kid is just super talented. And I'll just tell you, sometimes just seeing the performances, because they reenact a lot of Michael Jackson's famous videos, performances, it almost made me want to cry, but I was also smiling. So it was just, happiness, but then also sadness, because we lost the greatest entertainer. And then also with the guy who plays his father, Coleman, what is his name? Coleman Domingo, I believe. Is it Coleman Domingo? I believe that's his name. He was great as Joe Jackson. And sometimes because a few of my friends, we were just laughing because sometimes Joe was just like really upset and just irritated and just, Michael, what you doing, Michael? Michael, we got to do this album, Michael. So it was just cracking us up. And I was looking at some other videos a couple weeks ago, and someone said they had Joe Jackson looking like the Grinch. So it was just, I just thought that was kind of funny. And then Nia Long, she plays Catherine Jackson, so, and she looks like Catherine Jackson to me as well. So it was just a really entertaining movie. The thing is, like some of the things about Michael Jackson's life. So when he got his first nose job, so in this movie, like sometimes the thing that I didn't like is that sometimes they wouldn't really go in on certain things, like his relationship with his dad. Not his relationship with his dad, but when he got his first nose job, he he went in, how they depict it in the movie, he goes to the doctor and says, "Hey, I want to get a nose job. I want to be perfect. I don't like this." But in real life, he broke his nose, and then that's when he got his first nose job because he broke his nose and he wanted to originally fix it, from my understanding, because he broke it, but then he ended up, you know, getting, having the look and the shape of his nose done in a different way. And then I've read somewhere, I think that he wanted to have a correction that was needed or a repair that was needed, and then after that he just kept on getting nose jobs. But I feel like they should have depicted it. They should have depicted Michael Jackson just really struggling with, okay, his dad like making fun of him when he had, saying he has a big nose, because you see that once in the movie, when he's a kid, and then okay, when he's rehearsing and then he breaks his nose, and then really, I guess hone in on that and how like the fact that he broke his nose and how that just changed things. I don't know, but yes, I don't know why they just depicted the way that they did in the movie. Like, oh, I want to just get a nose job. I don't like this, and we know that he had insecurities as well, but that's all I got to say about that. And then also with his skin disorder or skin condition, vitiligo, vitiligo it is. You'll see that they'll touch on it like briefly, and then they'll go to a next scene. Like you'll see him in this, see him in the mirror looking at his skin, and then three scenes later, you might see him looking at his hand or whatever, or his arm again. So they don't really like go into it. So some things that they don't really, they skip over a little thing. They skip over things sometimes. So and I know that with this movie it was already 2 hours and 7 minutes, and you cannot add every single thing because Michael Jackson. You think of his career, he started when he was I think he was 7. Was he 6 or 7 or 8? He started at a young age. So when he was like how Diana Ross was in his life, how she had a major impact. You don't see that, and also I know that they had scenes already, or they filmed scenes with the actress playing as Diana Ross, but they had to cut it due to legal issues. But then also they don't touch on the Wiz and all, and other things. But you can't really touch on every single thing because someone like Michael Jackson, who is just like I said, a global superstar, you can't touch on every single thing. So with that being said, like certain things, those small things, I wish that they could have honed in on those kind of things and how it impacted him mentally. So that's the only thing. But I enjoyed this movie. 6 of my other friends, they enjoyed the movie. My other friend, he did not like this movie at all. It kind of surprised me. He just thought it was a horrible movie. He said this is a 2 out of 10, and he just felt like this was more of a concert movie. And to me, this movie was more so of a celebration of Michael Jackson's life. So I would give this movie. I would have to give it an 8 out of 10. I would give it an 8 out of 10. It was a really entertaining movie. Was it the greatest movie ever, or musical, or movie concert, like my friend was saying? It wasn't the greatest or biopic. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm looking for because the performances were amazing. But is it the best biopic? No, but it was a good movie, and I had a good time with it. Please take care and have a good one.